House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi speaking out against the tax bill, saying the Republicans did this bill, basically drafting of it, in secret. Watch.
Really, we want the American people to know. Clearly, they do not want the American people to know. That's why so much secrecy, such a short fuse, because time is their enemy.
But remember, Obamacare was written, it was not written with conferences, meaning bipartisanship. It was basically enacted with the Democrats writing it. Remember what Nancy Pelosi said about Obamacare. Watch.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the fog of the controversy.
Let's bring in RNC spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany. Good to see you, Kayleigh.
Good to see you, Liz.
All right, let's move beyond what the petty partisanship. One side is polarized from the other. It's better to get a bipartisan deal. That's what Kennedy and Reagan did. Was there any chance the Democrats could have signed on for tax cuts?
Well, it's of course better to get a bipartisan deal for a number of reasons. But number one, because if we got to 60 votes, these cuts are permanent. They don't have to be renewed year after year, kind of like the Bush tax cuts were. Bipartisan legislation is something we wanted. It's why the president, when he was selling this and he was going around to different states, he was selecting states with so-called moderate Democrats like Claire McCaskill, Heidi Heitkamp, states where there were senators that we thought might get on board. Unfortunately, we've seen just obstinance and kicking and screaming from Democrats. They don't want to work with us. We hope to get one or two, like Joe Manchin. I think a winning point to tell your constituents is putting more money in their pockets. But so far, it's all Republicans.
Yeah, this is quite astounding, pretty much what's going on, because you're right. I mean, John Kerry, Al Gore, Ted Kennedy, they all voted for the Reagan tax cuts. There was bipartisanship. Now the criticism is the Republicans are putting this through in a party line vote. They've got a tough sell on this. They face a mass extinction event going home for the Christmas holidays, saying, you know what, you're going to see your taxes going up, you individuals. I know that what they're saying, that the corporate tax cuts create growth, but they're raising individual taxes to pay for corporate tax cuts. It's a tough sell about the creation of jobs with corporate tax cuts. This could mean lower tax refunds and less spending and less economic growth. That's the flip side to this. What's your take?
Well, the focus has always been middle-class families. We have only $1.5 trillion to work with, because in order to pass this with just 51 votes, we can only raise the deficit by that much over a 10-year period. So what happened was you had the big six, as they're called, get in a room and say, who needs tax cuts the most? Because we have to prioritize here. And the priority was middle-class families, blue-collar families, and then job creators with the corporate tax rate. We just hope that some Democrats do come on board. I just want to emphasize that one more time, because they used to be a party during the era of JFK that was willing to take a bet on the American people. If left to their own accord, they'll succeed and make us an economic powerhouse. But gone are the days of JFK, apparently.
Yeah, you know, the Republicans are in that deficit straitjacket, right? It's the same thing that happened with Obamacare reform to get that 51, threshold vote. I mean, now we've got this big science project nightmare because of that straitjacket, and the voters may see this as a swamp in full display. They may not be happy with it, right?
That's right. And that's why the president wants to get rid of that arcane 60 Senate vote rule that we have there that allows folks to filibuster. He wants a simple majority. If you win an election, you should be able to pass your legislation. But, that is the straitjacket we're in. That's a great way to describe it, Liz. We have to work within those confines. It's unfortunate, but we hope that this is the first wave of many tax cut waves to come, just like in the Reagan years.
We're going to get to this in the next block, but the storyline is if you're in high tax states like California and New York, pack your bags and go to Florida. But the thing is, the property tax deduction going away will hit taxpayers in Florida and Texas. This is really tough. And, the other thing, Kayleigh, that's going on in the media running wild with this story, you've seen it, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, wealthier than the poorest half of the U.S. But here's the sell the Republicans need to get across, that more Americans would pay zero taxes under the House GOP tax plan, nearly 81 million Americans. That's an increase of more than 6 million. That's a lot of people not paying federal income taxes.
That's right. It's a lot of people who are going to be added to that so-called fifth bracket of 0%. And Democrats are out there trying to say this doesn't help the people who need it most, doesn't help middle class and blue collar workers. They were given 4 Pinocchios by the Washington Post. This is going to put more money in your viewers' pockets. Average family making $59,000, you'll see about $1,200 come back to you. This is a winning proposal. It's one we're going to get over the finish line. And, gosh, Democrats, if you don't want a hard time in 2018, some of you need to come on board with us, because you'll have to look your constituents in the eye and say, I didn't vote for you to get a pay raise.
All right. We'll stay on this story. Have you back on, Kayleigh. We love having you on. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.